Hey, brother! Guys, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Harry Potter is a dragon. Okay, I've never actually said that before, and yet I do think it's partly true. Not that he's like secretly a dragon in human form, or that his animagus form would be a dragon or anything like that. But that every time Harry comes face to face with a dragon in the wizarding world, that particular dragon is a reflection of Harry himself and the particular hardships he is facing at that point in his life. And kind of fittingly, each of those dragons is slated to appear at the beginning, middle, and end of Harry's saga. I speak, of course, of Norbert, the Norwegian Ridgeback, which appears in Harry's first year to kick things off.
I know what that is.
The Hungarian Horntail that he faces in the Triwizard Tournament at the halfway point in the series.
The Hungarian Horntail.
And then finally the Ukrainian Ironbelly that the Golden Trio rescues from beneath Gringotts in the final installment of Deathly Hallows. And it's not something that I think you might ever notice on your first pass, but once it's pointed out, you can't unsee it. Each dragon serves as a perfect reflection for Harry, and today we're gonna break it all down. Hey guys, in case you didn't know, we're going to be going on tour to Charlotte, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, Atlanta, and Nashville. We hope to see you there, or be square, or circle, or rhombus, or any shape that you like. Links in the description down below. Be rhombus, people! Dragons.
Well done, dragon!
While they don't necessarily feel absolutely central to the primary Harry Potter storylines, they do come up with regularity.
The Chinese fireball. Ooh.
In fact, the Hogwarts motto actually translates directly from Latin into never tickle a sleeping dragon. And I won't spend too much time on it, but we do have a fun theory that the original founders of Hogwarts themselves discovered, tickled, and then awoke a Hebridean black dragon that then had to be transformed into the castle itself. And this is why the castle seems to be like almost alive at times. I mean, consider this line from Professor McGonagall. I must say that Professor Dumbledore's murder is more disturbing to me than the idea of Slytherin's monster living undetected in the bowels of the castle. Bowels! You know what has bowels? Living things. Like dragons. But also, for real, just look at how similar our main illustration of a Hebridean black is to the Hogwarts castle. Coincidence? I mean, I'm gonna be straight with you guys. Honestly, who knows? Moving on though, dragons. Namely, the big three that Harry interacts with directly. So let's go ahead and run through them in order. Norbert, aka Norberta, the Norwegian Ridgeback, is actually fairly vital to the events of Philosopher's Stone. Namely, that it's during a fairly inebriated game of cards with a masked figure, aka Voldemort, Hagrid gives away the secret on how to get past Fluffy.
I won it, off a stranger I met down the pub. Seemed quite glad to be rid of it.
Norbert and Harry have fairly huge parallels though. They're both delivered to habitats unlike their own as babies by Hagrid himself. And Hagrid has incredibly similar reactions to having to see both Harry and Norbert go when he has to see them off. But whilst out of their natural habitats, we see that they wreak havoc where they don't fully belong. For Harry, this takes the form of unexpected magic bursting out of him to the chagrin of the Dursleys. And in the case of Norbert, he is a dragon, living in a small and wooden house. On that note, both Harry and Norbert are ultimately returned to their natural habitats, Norbert being sent off to live on a dragon sanctuary in Romania.
Sent them off to Romania to live in a colony.
And Harry being reintroduced to the wizarding world.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Beyond that, I think Norbert is doing a couple of other things that are massively representative of the greater themes of the first book. For one, I think we've got this idea of early innocence. Harry is introduced to the wizarding world and at first is just in awe of everything around him and the existence of magic at all. He soon learns, similar to the dangers Norbert begins to pose as he gets even just slightly larger, that the wizarding world is also full of new and unique dangers.
Do something!
The other really huge one for this first book is the idea of teamwork. Harry, who has never had proper friends, he's never had proper friends before.
had a single brother.
And he just never had a friend. And then Ron was all like, you got a friend in me. The other really huge one for the first book is the idea of teamwork. Harry, who has never really had proper friends before, is working together with Ron and Hermione to not only help Hagrid out of the mess he's found himself in, but also demonstrates a respect for magical creatures, however dangerous they may be, and their right to live freely. An example of this might be like thinking of everything that Harry does to free Norbert and then reflect it over his decision to just 1 year later free Dobby from the Malfoys.
Never has he been asked to sit down by a wizard like an equal.
Yo, we need to take a brief pause right there to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Raycon. We are in a new year, and as I so often do, I signed up for multiple physical activities somewhere around April as my own form of like resolution self-enforcement. I mean, how hard could America's Toughest Road Half Marathon even be, right? Which is why I am so glad that Raycon is today's sponsor, because I've already started training and nothing amps up my workouts like having music pulsing through my ears, which lately has mostly been the Wicked soundtrack, if I'm being completely honest. Popular. Raycon's everyday earbuds are the perfect gym buddy, coworker, or phone call companion, offering premium audio that goes where you go. Plus, I love their noise canceling technology, and they come in cool, fun colors, which I personally like the green because that's my favorite color. So if you want to be just like me, enjoy all the anxiety. And it has been freezing here in Virginia, so I've been throwing down loads of miles on the treadmill at the gym, and my Raycon everyday earbuds have been lifesavers, and more importantly, actually stay in my ears. Gosh, have you ever lost an earbud on a treadmill only to have it like launched into next week? Check them out, you won't regret it, and you can get 15% off site-wide at buyraycon.com/supercarlin. That's 15% off at buyraycon.com/supercarlin. Buyraycon.com/supercarlin, link in the description down below. Moving on though to Goblet of Fire and the Hungarian Horntail. We also find ourselves in the exact middle of the Harry Potter saga. Book 4, all by itself, does a great job of keeping one foot in the fun and innocence of magic and world building for the better part of the installation. This all feels very reminiscent of books 1 through 3. Meanwhile, the other foot finds us living in the incredibly real dangers of what is to face Harry in the years to come with the return of Voldemort and subsequent battle, which is really a lot of what books 5 through 7 will ultimately focus on. So first and foremost, I think we can all look at the Horntail as a clever use of foreshadowing for the dangers that will lie ahead for Harry. Now, all dragons are dangerous, but of the 4 slated to face off with the champions, the Horntail is decidedly the most fierce.
I have to admit, that Horntail is a right nasty piece of work.
This again alludes to the reality that the whole wizarding world is going to be up against dark challenges in the years to come, but Harry uniquely has to go up against the biggest and baldest himself. Oh my bad, that's actually a little typo there. The baddest, not baldest, although he is bald. And you know what? Maybe the baldest, now that I think about it. The thing about the Horntail, though, and how it more reflects Harry himself, is that the Horntail is also being placed inside of this arena against its will, too. What I mean is that Harry had never intended to even be a part of this battle. Barty Crouch Jr., of course, placed his name into the Goblet of Fire as a ploy to force him into the tournament. And once entered, Harry has no choice but to compete.
The rules are absolute. The Goblet of Fire constitutes a binding magical contract.
Another unique inverse that exists on this very point is that when it comes to fighting the Horntail, it's a bad guy, Barty Crouch Jr., in disguise as an ally, Bad Eye Moody, helping Harry to win a battle that he is unwillingly a part of. On the flip side with Voldemort, though, it's a good guy, Snape, who is disguised as a bad guy, Death Eater, who helps Harry to enter the woods to face Voldemort willingly. But I should have died. I didn't mean to defend myself. I meant to let him kill me. And that, said Dumbledore, will, I think, have made all the difference. Finally, I think it's really interesting that when it comes to defeating both the dragon and Voldemort, Harry plays to his very specific strengths.
Well, I can fly. I mean, I'm a fair flyer, but
Then when it comes to Harry's triumph over Voldemort, we learn that he has his own secret weapon that Voldemort does not. Love. Yeah, I can love. And then he says big deal in his brain, but he doesn't say it out loud because that might be rude in front of Dumbledore, but like, you know. big deal. Is a big deal, Harry. It makes all the difference. That finally brings us to the final installment in the saga, where we get our final dragon that in so many ways can once again represent Harry and his journey. So first, I'd like to start by comparing the Iron Belly to Harry's soul itself, for both are in ways shackled. In the case of the dragon, it's actually physically shackled deep within the labyrinth of Gringotts. And in the case of Harry, it's his soul being shackled to Voldemort's, preventing him from ever truly living his own free life.
For neither can live while the other survives.
Also kind of interesting is that by this stage, both are getting very close to breaking their way free. And in both cases, that freedom comes by way of destruction of their containers, the exact way you destroy a Horcrux, which I guess if you want to be technical about it, Harry just actually is. The dragon's container is, of course, Gringotts itself, and in order to get out, must actually tear and destroy its way to the surface. And for Harry, he must actually face death itself in order to rid himself of Voldemort's soul. And then from there, we can also observe that both Harry and the dragon are unknowingly, and once again, rather unwillingly, defending pieces of Voldemort's soul. The dragon lays guard over Hufflepuff's cup as part of Gringotts' defenses. And then Harry's desire to, live is actively protecting the piece of soul within himself.
Does it hurt? Dying.
Then finally, both the dragon and Harry have to rely on unexpected allies in order to overcome their challenges. The dragon, for example, relies on Harry, Ron, and Hermione to help blast its way to the surface and to freedom. And Harry must rely on creatures like Dobby and Griphook. Although, let's face it, there's nothing unexpected ally-like about Dobby. He is just the best.
Of course, I'm an elf.
And then there's Griphook, who is present. Boom! That is how each of the three dragons that Harry specifically encounters all represent in varying ways the stage of life or circumstances that Harry is currently experiencing alongside each of them as we go. I love this because I think so much of the greater wizarding world is trying to tell us not to judge a book by its cover. There can be good in all of us, even dragons, if we're just willing to look.
Well done, dragon!
Do you see how the beginning of this video reflected its end? Definitely taking way too much credit for playing the same clip twice. But guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to see more in depth how Hogwarts itself could have been once upon a time an actual living, breathing dragon, you can do so by checking out this video right over here. But otherwise, until next time, bye. Also, guys, don't forget that we're going on tour. If you want to come and see us, we would love that. Link in the description down below.